What is Mantis? Bitcoin cycle analysis without the noise. A quick note before we start. Nothing on this channel is financial advice. I'm an analyst and a builder, not a financial advisor. Mantis is a cycle analysis tool. What you do with that information is entirely your own decision. Sentiment is souring on Bitcoin. The phrase you keep hearing now is, this time is different, the 4-year cycle is dead, the institutions have changed everything, Bitcoin is just a risk asset now, moving with the NASDAQ, controlled by the same forces as everything else. Maybe they're right, but here's the thing. I've heard this time is different before. In 2014, in 2018, in 2022. Each time the sentiment was overwhelming, each time the cycle just kept running, and the people who tuned out the noise and watched the data instead of the narrative, they were the ones who were ready when it mattered. That's what this channel is built on. Not opinions, not sentiment, Bitcoin's own cycle data, 15 years of it, answering the only questions that actually matter. Where are we in the cycle? What does the data say comes next? And when? That's what Mantis was built for. If you've been in Bitcoin for more than one cycle, you'll recognize this feeling. The bull market arrives, everything is going up, the sentiment is euphoric. Then, slowly at first, and then very quickly, it reverses, and suddenly everyone has an opinion. The analysts who were calling $500,000 are now calling 20,000. The accounts that were cheering at the top are now posting charts of the Great Depression. You know the cycle is real. You know Bitcoin has done this before. In 2014, in 2018, in 2022. Each time, a bottom formed. Each time, a recovery followed. The pattern is undeniable, but pattern recognition alone doesn't give you an edge. Everyone can see the cycle in hindsight. The question is precision. Not just that a bottom is coming, but when and where. Miss the window in either direction, and you've either bought too early into more pain, or you're chasing a market that's already left without you. That's the gap Mantis was built to fill. I got into Bitcoin in 2019, and like most people, I experienced it the way most people do, with a mixture of conviction and anxiety in roughly equal measure. I believed in Bitcoin. The long-term case made sense to me, but every time the price dropped, that anxiety crept back in. Every red candle raised the same questions. Is this the end? Did I get this wrong? Should I be doing something? I vaguely understood that a 4-year cycle existed, driven by the halving, the supply shock, the repeating pattern of boom and bust. But understanding it intellectually and actually trusting it are two very different things. Deep down, I still wasn't sure. I still wondered whether this time really was different, whether some greater force was actually at work, or whether that was just something people told themselves to feel better. Then I started digging deeper. Analysts like Bob Lucas, who had been tracking Bitcoin's cycle structure for years with rigor and patience. I went through the 2020 crash, the 2021 bull run, the brutal 2022 bear market, nearly 2 full cycles of lived experience. And somewhere in that process, something shifted. The greater force was real. The cycles were real, not a guarantee, but a measurable, repeating structure that had shown up consistently across 15 years of data, through every crash, every panic, every obituary written for Bitcoin. The chaos wasn't random, it had a shape. And once you see that shape, the anxiety starts to lift. Not because the volatility disappears, it doesn't, but because you know where you are inside it. I wanted a tool that made that visible, that took the cycle framework and turned it into something you could look at every day and know precisely where you stood. Every tool I could find was either built for active traders watching hourly candles or too basic to be useful. So I built it myself. I named it Mantis, and not just after the insect, though the insect fits perfectly. Patient, still watching, waiting for exactly the right moment before it moves. The word comes from ancient Greek. Mantis means prophet, seer, one who can see what others cannot. In ancient Greece, the mantis wasn't panicking at every piece of bad news. They weren't reacting to the noise. They had a framework, and the framework gave them something most people never find in Bitcoin. Certainty in a world that is ostensibly chaotic and disordered. That's what cycles give you. Not a crystal ball, not a guarantee, but a framework, calm, measurable, and consistent, that tells you where you are and roughly where you're going. When you know the tide is coming in, the waves stop being terrifying. Mantis, a standalone Windows desktop application built for one asset and one purpose: Bitcoin cycle analysis. No noise. At its core, Mantis applies cycle theory to Bitcoin's historical price data. Cycle theory is the observation that Bitcoin moves in repeating time-based patterns, not random, not chaotic, measurable, repeating rhythms that have shown up consistently across 15 years of price data. There are 3 layers: a short-term daily cycle, a medium-term weekly cycle, and overarching all of it, the 4-year cycle, driven by the halving and the supply shock that follows, each one nested inside the next, each one real, tangible, and trackable. Mantis tracks where we are in the current weekly cycle, projects forward to where the next low is likely to form, and gives you a target price, a timing window, and a confidence score. That target price will move as new data comes in. That's not a flaw. That's the model doing its job. It's updating in real time as each new candle lands, the same way a weather forecast gets more precise the closer you get to the day. What doesn't move is the timing window, the methodology, or the 15 years of cycle data underneath it. That's a specific time-stamped public prediction, not a vibe, not a gut feeling. A projection based on cycle mathematics applied to 15 years of Bitcoin price data. And it doesn't stand alone. 9 independent frameworks are currently pointing at the same price zone: the 300-week moving average, Bitcoin's realized price, the power law corridor, multiple on-chain pricing models, each one built on completely different methodology, each one arriving at the same address. When unrelated frameworks converge on the same destination, it stops being coincidence. Most cycle analysis you'll find online rests in a comfortable place, vague enough to be right either way, hedged enough that there's always an exit. We could see a bottom here, but watch this level too. That's not analysis, that's cover. Mantis doesn't work that way. Every projection is specific: a price target, a timing window, a confidence score, and it's public before the result, not after. Every prediction made on this channel is time-stamped. Every call is on the record. When the cycle plays out, you'll see it here. When it doesn't, and cycles are probabilistic, not guaranteed, you'll see that too. That accountability isn't a marketing tactic. It's the whole point. The receipt exists before the result. That's how it has to work. And the focus is deliberate. Mantis covers Bitcoin, not altcoins, not Forex, not every asset that moves on a Monday morning. Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's cycle data is deep enough, consistent enough, and long enough that it rewards that kind of focus. 15 years of data, 4 full cycles, the patterns are there if you know how to look. This channel operates on exactly the same principle. Mantis is currently Layer 1, Bitcoin cycle timing, answering the when. Layer 2 is already in development, the Bitcoin beta portfolio. Assets like MSTR and the major Bitcoin mining stocks that lead Bitcoin at both inflection points, they have their own cycles, their own timing windows, their own data. In fact, MSTR is currently inside its own cycle window right now. That's a video coming very soon. Layer 3 is the long game, a systematic sats accumulation engine, using the beta portfolio to generate alpha that converts back into Bitcoin, compounding through every cycle. The foundation is the timing. Get the timing right, everything else follows. If you've made it this far, you're probably not here for hype content. Good. Neither am I. Most people experience Bitcoin as pure anxiety. Every red candle is a crisis. Every piece of bad news is potentially the end. That's not investing, that's suffering. Cycles don't eliminate the uncertainty, but they give you somewhere to stand inside it, a fixed point, a framework that has shown up consistently for 15 years. Through every crash, every panic, every time someone declared Bitcoin dead. This channel is for people who want that, not a tip, not a signal, a framework and the clarity that comes with it. Most people think the narrative is in the driver's seat. The Fed decision moved the market. The geopolitical event caused the sell-off. The news explained the move. But flip it around. What if the cycle was always driving and the narrative was just the passenger arriving to explain a journey that was already underway? Tariffs, quantum threats, oil field strikes. Every major event this cycle landed precisely when the cycle said price should be falling. The news didn't cause the move. It dressed it. That's what Mantis is built on. And that's what this channel will show you week by week. The cycle is in control. Everything else is noise. Subscribe if that's the kind of content you're looking for. If you want to run the framework yourself, Mantis is available with a free 2-week trial, link in the description. So with that I say, step back, set your alerts, let the cycle do the work.